It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations, we cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Welcome aboard. I'm going to tell you this right off the bat. This is a best of edition of America Outdoors Radio. Why, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. We're on the road a lot, and when we're on the road, we're sometimes in places where we can't produce this show, upload it for our stations, and get it out for them. So, what we've done is we've gone into our libraries, found some great interviews we've recorded over the last couple of years, and we are going to share them with you today. Much of the focus is going to be on hunting, and we'll be taking you all over this continent and South America when we do so. Starting in the north, Alaska-based outdoors writer and hardcore hunter Paul Atkins is going to tell you what he loves to do every September in Alaska. That would be floating down a river and hunting big game. And staying in the north and west as far as North America goes, we'll also take you to the Yukon territory, where outdoors writer Troy Rodakowski went on a physically grueling but very memorable wild sheep hunt with his father that the two of them will never forget. Another hunt we'll take you on today is for Red Stag. I know what you're thinking. There's no Red Stag in America unless you're hunting at some sort of exotic game ranch, and yes, I do believe you're correct about that. But the hunter in question we're talking to today is Shane Meisel. He's the marketing director for Leupold Stevens, makers of some great optics out of Beaverton, Oregon. And as you might imagine, he gets some invites to go hunting in some pretty far-flung places. This time, he got an invitation to hunt for Red Stag, and he flew a long, long way for the opportunity to do so. How far? How about Argentina at the south end of South America? That's how far. I think you're going to love hearing about this hunt and everything that went along with it. With all of this hunting going on, you may well get motivated to get out there and do some hunting yourself, but slow down there, partner. Have you been out to the range yet? If you haven't, you know you are courting disaster in terms of missing what you worked so hard to get a shot at. That's right. Range time is important. Practice does make perfect, and you know that. Now comes the next question. It's kind of like what the checkers at some grocery stores will ask. Will that be paper or plastic? However, on the range, the question may be, will that be paper or steel? That would be targets we're talking about here. Paper targets, they work fine, just fine. But the problem with them is you have to walk down range, sometimes several hundred yards, to see exactly where your bullet hit or if it hit the target at all, or you are spending time squinting through a spotting scope and trying to answer that same question. With steel targets, though, you get immediate, right now, boom, gong, in your ear feedback, because if that bullet hits a target, you're going to hear it right away. As for what kind of steel target should you buy? It turns out the answer to that is a little more complicated than I thought. That's why I'm glad I ran into John Myrie, the owner of AR 500 Target Solutions, the last time I was out at the range in Duluth, Minnesota. We recorded a piece about this very subject, and we'll be sharing that with you today. That's a whole lot of hunting and shooting, to be sure. But don't worry, we've got some fishing for you too. And I think if you like the surf and the sand and the California coastline near Santa Barbara, you are really going to enjoy our conversation with Jason Grupp. He owns Breakwater Tours. He takes folks out for some low-key but really fun mornings where you get to go surf fishing and catch a variety of different species. And I don't know about you, but the next time I'm in Santa Barbara, I'm definitely going to give this a try. I suspect after you hear what Jason has to share, you'll feel the same way. Before we take you to sunny California, though, it's time to sling that rifle, grab a paddle, and head north to Alaska for a unique DIY early fall hunting adventure. Next up on America Outdoors Radio, have you ever thought of heading up to Alaska and just having an incredible hunting adventure? How about this? renting a raft and floating down a river and bow hunting for moose or caribou and seeing nobody else for days at a time. Well, one person who's done that and is going to tell you about it is Paul Atkins. He hails from Kotzebue, Alaska. He's an outdoors writer. He's a pro staffer for Cabela's and Bowtech. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, I'm glad to be here.
Paul, what I'm describing here actually comes out of an article you wrote, and it just sounds fantastic. I mean, what an adventure. Tell our listeners a little bit more about this experience.
Well, John, I've been living up here for about 20 years, and for a long time I used to fly out and just camp and hunt, and then, a few years later I discovered that, if you had a raft and you could get down the river a little further, you could probably see a little more. Things are kind of slow at camp. You can float down, maybe find a moose, find a caribou, find a bear, and things get a little bit more exciting. But it's incredible, John. I do it every year. We're going to, fly out, take a raft with us, camp, float, and we've had a lot of success. It's just about as much fun as you can possibly have, I think, in Alaska.
Well, Paul, there's a lot of rivers in Alaska, and for somebody down here in the lower 48 that's trying to figure out where and when to go, what kind of advice do you have for them?
Well, John, September's kind of the prime time, really, for people down in the lower 48 or for non-residents. The season runs, for moose, it runs September 1st to September 20th. And that's kind of the time frame for everything, in my opinion. In all the years I've been here, that's when I've done most of my hunting. And, you got the moose rut there about the third week, and then the caribou migration usually happens in that time frame. And, those animals they're moving, they're coming south, and you pack up, you get your gear together, maybe grab a buddy or two, and, head out and find a river. And like you said, there's tons of rivers. I mean, tons of rivers everywhere. It seems like a river's going in every direction. But and they're all pretty good, actually.
Wow. All right. So let's talk about actually making this happen. And there's two things I got from your article. Number one, you want to rent a raft. Number two, you want to get a transporter, which is very different than getting a guide.
Exactly. A transporter, his job is to get you from point A to point B and back again. I mean, that's his job. A transporter, for those that don't know, is, that's a bush pilot with a bush plane usually a Super Cub or a 180, and they haul you to a campsite or to a place that you want to go, on the river, and drop you off and then come back and get you. I wrote about this a lot. You got to do your research on who you choose, because you're actually putting your life in their hands.
Yeah.
In all aspects of the hunt and the trip, and so you want to make sure that you choose correctly. But and there's lots of great ones out there. There's some bad ones too, but there's lots of great ones out there as well.
So the raft itself, what size do you recommend, and are there any minimum requirements, so to speak, that you got to consider when you're looking at this?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on what you're hunting and what you're trying to do, just like anything else. And, if you're on a moose caribou thing, you want to probably take, a 14 to 16 footer, something that's going to hold a lot of weight. Here's an example. A few years ago, we got very fortunate on a hunt up north of Kotzebue and took a moose and two caribou, and There was three of us. And I was really worried about how we were going to get and we were like 2 miles from camp. And there's lots of brands, but I use Soar brand, which, I got a 16-footer. They're not very wide, but that thing, it held all the weight, all the moose, two caribou, and three guys, and we floated 2 miles back to camp. And, but yeah, and today the rafts they're incredible. There's lots of great ones that hold a lot of weight. You got Soar, Avalon, there's all kinds that are made specifically, for hunting. Beforehand, rafts were just for rafting down rivers, and that's great too. But nowadays they've kind of put some thought into it, and a lot of rafts are made for hunting. But as far as recommendations for one, I think there's, just get on any website, punch in hunting rafts, and you'll probably find something that'll suit you.
One more thing we need to touch on here, and I think you just about touched on it with that last story, is having an outboard motor for that raft.
Yeah, up here, specifically up here where I'm at, we don't use them that much because the rivers, they go deep, shallow. So I've never used a motor up here in this part, but I've hunted down on Kodiak and some of those areas in the southern part of Alaska. And without a motor, we probably couldn't have done it. Hunting around those islands and stuff, motors come in very handy. They can get you from a longer distance faster. If you need to get from one bay to another bay or a cove or whatever it might be, they sure are handy when it comes to that. The downside of that is they're loud, just
Sure.
like anything else. Gas motors can be loud. So if you're getting into that last, 300 or 400 yards or maybe longer, you want to probably shut them off and grab the paddles and try to get to where you want to go. But they do, when you got to go a distance and you're in kind of deep water, they work great.
We are out of time, but folks, if you want to find out more about Alaska adventures and Alaska hunting, go to Paul's website. It's pauldAtkins.com. That's pauldAtkins.com. You can also look him up on Facebook, too. Paul, thanks so much for sharing this wonderful Alaska experience with us on America Outdoors Radio.
You bet, John. Thanks for having me.
We've been telling you about Sportsman's Cove Lodge in Southeast Alaska for a while now, and there's a reason. They are the only Alaska lodge we talk about in this show. It's because they're truly Alaska's best lodge. The adventure starts with a float plane ride from Ketchikan, after which you'll get the chance to experience some of the best hospitality, food, and wonderful people you'll ever meet. Wildlife is abundant, from bears and deer to eagles and whales, and let's not forget the reason you're here, the fishing. Halibut, salmon, lingcod, rockfish, true cod, and more. It's all waiting for you in abundance at Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Book your trip today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers seeks to ensure North America's outdoor heritage of hunting and fishing. Lend your voice to the fight by visiting backcountryhunters.org and join the 25,000 men and women who have pledged to defend wildlife and public access.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Cruz through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
You're back with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and we are taking you way, way north into the Yukon territory. That's where Troy Rodakowski, a hunter and writer based out of Oregon, has been the last couple of weeks. He's been hunting sheep. He's been hunting grizzly bears. Troy, welcome to the show.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So, Troy, I purposely did not ask a lot of questions. I knew you were heading to the Yukon with your dad for the hunt of a lifetime, but I wanted to find out, just like our listeners are finding out right now, the fresh details of this event. Why don't you tell our listeners who you and your dad went with and how you got to where you went hunting?
Okay, we went with an outfit called Widrig Outfitters, and they're based out of Whitehorse up in the Yukon, and it's a float plane trip into a remote lake about 200 miles north of Whitehorse, and then from that float plane, we get on horses and ride about 10 to 11 hours on horseback and set up a spike camp for this hunt.
So you went 10 or 11 hours. You set up the spike camp, and I presume you're hunting in different places for the sheep and for the grizzly. Is that correct?
Right, and the main focus was to get the sheep, so we were concentrating on the sheep, and every day we'd round up the horses, saddle them up, and we'd ride anywhere from 12 to 20 miles a day, glassing for sheep. If we spotted some sheep, then the stock was on to get close enough and in range to see if they were what we were looking for. And that's where the work started, and it just didn't end. This was one of the toughest hunts. Well, actually, the toughest hunt I've ever been on in my whole life.
And when you say it was the toughest hunt you've been on, I'm assuming not the horseback ride, but just once you saw one of those sheep going uphill, trying to get to position where you get a shot at it?
Right, it's the country they live in. They live in country anywhere from 3,500 foot in elevation clear up to 9,000 feet, and it's just steep, rocky. It's sheep country, and so you're hiking vertically a lot and taxing your body to the point where your legs are jello, are hurting quite a bit, and you're looking for water. You're trying to stay hydrated and trying to get to the sheep in time before they move or move from their bedding spot to another area, and that's difficult.
So when it comes to the sheep, let's talk about them. Are we talking Dall sheep, or are we talking stone sheep, or some other kind of sheep?
Well, up where we were hunting, it's mainly Dall sheep. There are some Fannin sheep up there. The stone sheep are in a little bit different section of the Yukon up there, but we were focusing on Dall sheep, yeah.
And when it comes to Dall sheep, let's go ahead and compare them. Compare them in size to the bighorn sheep a lot of us have seen and are familiar with. How do these Dall sheep compare in terms of size and in other characteristics too?
Right, they're fairly similar in size. They have a lot of the same traits as far as habits and the way they move about and go about their day. So, if you've hunted bighorn sheep or California bighorn or Rocky Mountain bighorn, there's a lot of similarities. Dall sheep live in a little bit more rugged country, in my opinion. Some of the Rocky Mountain bighorns are in some fairly rugged country. I've been on California bighorn hunt in southeast Oregon, and there's really no comparison as far as the toughness of the hunt. I'd go on a California bighorn hunt any day compared to going and trying to bag one of these Dall sheep.
When it came to punching your ticket, so to speak, this much I will spill the beans on. They were successful. Great photo of your dad with what looked like a magnificent trophy Dall sheep. Tell me how that came about.
Okay, so we hunted out of a spike camp the first 2 or 3 days, and we only saw, some immature rams, one ram that was full curl, and a potential shooter, and he ended up and disappeared. So we broke camp, and we rode the horses 11 hours in one day, set up camp, and the next morning we went out and rode the horses about an hour and a half, and we spotted 7 rams on the side of this mountain, and we got out the spotters, looked them over really well, saw this really good ram up there and made a plan, and the stock was on.
Okay, so the stock was on. How long did it take you from the time you saw that ram until the time you got to a position where your dad could actually pull the trigger on it?
It took almost 3 hours to get into position, and then after the shot, we actually had to come off the mountain, go get the horses, ride up another drainage, get off the horses, and it took us another 3.5, 4 hours to get up to the sheep, field dress him, and then it took us the rest of the day to get him off the mountain. It was quite the experience. It was quite the experience. I think my legs are still sore today, so, but it's a good sore,
And how far was that shot if you had to do all that riding? Was it a close shot, but it was just the drainage was between you, or was it a really long-distance shot?
The shot ended up, it was a 450-yard shot. Initially, the shot probably would have been about 300, but the rams, when we began the stock, they were bedded, and we were hoping they'd stay bedded. But by the time we got to them, they started to move up the canyon, and the shot ended up was a 450-yard shot. So it was a long shot, but after the shot, that ram tumbled about 300 yards down a canyon crevice in some shale. So he made the pack just a little bit easier for us, but he took a good tumble after the shot.
Your dad looks like he's in some pretty good shape. How old is he?
He's 66, and this is his second sheep hunt, and people say, hey, you have to be in sheep shape, and he's definitely in sheep shape, and you do have to be in really good shape to hunt these animals. It's something that if you go up there unprepared and you're not in good shape, you're asking for trouble. And he's in good shape, and it's very addicting. It's an addicting sport. I've never felt in my life like I could die up here, but it's worth it. So it's a very rewarding feeling, and there's a certain amount of adrenaline that is involved there.
It sounds like the biggest takeaway from this hunt is the pre-season conditioning. What's some other advice that you would give folks if they want to go up to the Yukon and try to bag themselves a trophy Dall or stone sheep?
I say, just exercise as much as possible. Put a big 50-pound pack on your back and hike uphill. That's probably the toughest thing, is going straight uphill and having all this weight on your back, because you're not used to that. You can be in the gym and be on the treadmill, but if you don't have weight on your back, or you're not actually going up a hill that's uneven with rocks and different things, your body is not going to be ready for it. It's worth doing that ahead of time and trying to be in the best of physical condition that you possibly can.
One last question. Did you get a sheep?
I did not. I didn't have a sheep tag. I actually only had a grizzly tag. I was along for the ride, and it was a great experience to have with my dad. I'd even go again without having a sheep tag. Hopefully someday I'll get out of the less than one sheep club, and actually have my own. But I'll take that experience with my dad for now. That's good.
Well, we're going to have you back on the show very soon, because we want to hear the grizzly bear story. But before we do, let's go ahead and tell folks again, number one, thumbs up or thumbs down on the outfitter. And if it's thumbs up, give us the contact information so folks can contact him to find out more.
It's definitely a double thumbs up. We've been up there twice. We've taken 2 sheep and a really nice mountain caribou, and it's www.widrigoutfitters.com, and they're excellent. They have great accommodations, great horses, great lodge facilities when you fly into the lake, and they're great people. So I highly recommend them if you're looking to do a Dall sheep, caribou, moose, or grizzly bear hunt.
And I'm guessing we're going to see an article about this hunt soon, too. Any idea where it's going to appear?
I don't know where it's going to land yet. There's a lot of options, but I'll definitely let you guys know once I confirm that.
All right, that's Troy Rodakowski, folks, hunting sheep up in the Yukon with his dad. And WidrigOutfitters.com, that's the website to go to if you want to find out more about doing it yourself. Troy, thanks for sharing this great story with us on America Outdoors Radio.
You bet. Thanks for having me, John.
So you sit down and do your budget, and you look at all your monthly costs and your bills and your income, and it seems like there's never quite enough. You know what would really help? Finding $500 a month to help balance things out. That is the typical savings, $500 a month for a family when you switch to MediShare for your health care. And when it comes to healthcare sharing ministries, MediShare is really the gold standard. It's been around for 25 years and has more than 400,000 members. It's been around so long and grown so much because it works. And whether you're single or married or have kids, this could make sitting down to do a monthly budget a lot more fun. $500 a month can more than cover a car payment or pay back loans, whatever. So join MediShare and go out to dinner to celebrate. Here's the number to call. They are incredibly kind and helpful to talk to. 855-90-BIBLE. That's 855-90-BIBLE. 855-90-BIBLE.
All right, let's pour ourselves another cup of joe, take a little sip there, and bring you our next segment, which is sponsored by California Sportsman Magazine. It's the monthly publication that covers fishing, hunting, and the outdoor sports throughout the great state of California. Look for a copy at a newsstand near you. Speaking of California, we are heading down Santa Barbara way. That's where Jason Grupp operates Breakwater Tours. He'll take you fishing in the surf, he'll take you fishing in a kayak, and he'll take you fishing some other places too. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Jason, let's talk a little bit about Breakwater Tours and exactly what you're offering down there. Santa Barbara, most people think of going to the beach, but not necessarily fishing off the beach. What are the opportunities that await there?
Yeah, Santa Barbara is such a beautiful place and fairly protected beaches along that coast due to the Channel Islands and whatnot. So it's a great place to fish. And me and my clients have been roaming those beaches for close to 20 years, chasing a number of different species, halibut, bonita, surf perch, leopard sharks, you name it. There's quite a range of species that roam those beaches down there, and we have a lot of fun, whether it's fishing right from the sand with fly rod or spinning gear, or getting on the kayaks and heading out and chasing some bigger species, white sea bass and calicos and whatnot that's roaming the kelp patties off the coast.
Well, let's go ahead and break it down, and we'll start on land, so to speak, or on the beach with the surf fishing. Tell our listeners about a typical day. They're going to hook up with you, I presume, at a public beach, and what happens after that?
Yeah, the way we set up these trips as far as picking what time of day really is based off the tides. They have a huge role in when those fish are going to come in and feed. So first thing I do when I get a client that's asking me on a date, I immediately look at the tides and see, what time of day is going to be best for us to start. And it's usually that incoming to high tide is best. So once we get that picked and get out there at the best time, then we figure out whether we're going to go for, the smaller species, a lot of bites, or some of the, bigger fish that are out there and less bites, bigger fish. So then we dial in kind of what we're going to chase. Then, whether you're a fly fisherman or spinning gear, we bring the appropriate gear, and at that point, we're ready to go and start fishing. And, fly rod down there is a lot of fun, too. It does take a, somewhat experienced caster to be able to handle the surf, dealing with the currents on the water and, the longer casting distances. But if you're not a fly fisherman, then we grab the spinning gear and go after them that way.
So I'm guessing if we're talking about smaller fish, lots of bites, we're probably talking about surf perch. How are you hooking up? We'll start with the spinning rods. How are you hooking those up to get some of those surf perch to bite?
It's not a real tough fish to catch. We usually use like a 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce weight to get it out further. And, 10, 12-pound test, short leader. And there's a variety of different, baits you can use, from small grubs to, I like the Berkeley Gulp sandworm. They are all over that bait. Reds, orange, green, any of those colors work really well, and drag it along the bottom. And, some days we can go down there and catch 50, 60 perch in a morning, no problem. And they're fun. And if you find the bigger females, especially when they're coming into spawn, you can get into, decent-sized perch up to 2 pounds.
Oh, nice.
And they're a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely.
And in the meantime, while you're fishing for perch, you end up hooking up a lot of different species, from small halibut, bonita, corbina. Everything's down there. You never really know what's going to tug. We landed a huge leopard shark the other day fishing for perch, which was a shocker to the client. They weren't prepared to have a shark on the end of the line, but we did it. So.
That sounds like a ton of fun. So I've got to ask you about the halibut, because, most anglers, when they think of fishing for halibut, they think of going really deep for these fish, but you're catching them in the surf. That's really counterintuitive to me.
Yeah, they're there. When the bait fish come in and the water starts to warm up, those halibut move in very, very shallow. We stepped on one the other day.
Jeez.
So don't think that they're not in close, because they absolutely are. And they come in and feed. And another fun part is, a lot of people think that they're bottom feeders and you only get them right on the bottom. It's not true. They'll come all the way up and hit a bait. I had one hit a bait so hard that he flew 3 feet out of the water the other day. We were drop shotting a small plastic fluke for him, and one hit it so hard he went flying out of the water. We missed him, but it was still cool to see. But really, that type of fishing starts this time of year, when that water starts to warm up a little bit, and then through the summer season, it can be really good. I remember our best trip last summer. On fly rod, we landed 7 halibut, with our biggest being 28 inches off the beach.
Wow. That is cool. So obviously, most of the halibut you're going to be catching off the beach are going to be a lot smaller than what you're catching off a charter boat. I get that, but still, what an opportunity. When it comes to catch and keep, are most of your clients doing catch and keep, or are they doing catch and release?
For the most part, we release. You have to catch a pretty big halibut for it to be legal, which should be 24 inches this year. But, so most of the clients plan on letting it go, and then we'll go over to a nice seafood restaurant and, eat some crab or something like that.
Sounds like a great day to me. So let's get off the beach. Let's get into a kayak, and let's talk about that opportunity. Calico bass. I'm not familiar with this species. Tell our listeners about fishing for these.
Yeah, the Santa Barbara area holds a fantastic population of calico bass. And, when you find one, you can usually find a group of them, and they'll be all over these kelp patties. So we'll get out on the kayak and just drift, along the edges of these kelp patties. And I love doing it with a fly rod. And usually we'll use a sinking line, but you can get away with a floating fly line, nice Clouser minnow or something like that. Let it sink down along the edges of these kelp patties and slow strip, and you'll be surprised, what you catch. We landed a sheephead the other day while fishing for calicos, and we caught 7 or 8, 2 to 3 pound calico bass, and they're a blast, especially on the kayak. And not only do you land just calicos, but you end up running into all kinds of stuff, more halibut, white sea bass even, which, they're really the trophy fish in our waters out here, if you can find them. And it's not started yet, but I'm waiting for those white sea bass to move in here pretty soon.
So I've got to ask you about a fish I saw a couple times on your gallery on your website at breakwatertours.com. You've got some image galleries there, and it looked like some sort of almost like a skate, but the head was a little bit narrower. It had that kind of triangular shape, but it wasn't quite as big. What was that your clients were catching?
You're talking about a shovel-nosed shark.
Yes, that must be it.
Also called guitar fish.
Okay, that's really unusual. And your clients were catching those both out of the kayak and off the beach?
Yeah, we catch a ton of those, and they're fun. We catch those on fly rod as well. And, they eat at just about everything, and our waters are loaded with them. And, people will eat those as well. I've never done it, but I guess the tail tastes pretty good. But, another cool thing I guide is on a couple of the beaches down there on low tide, which isn't usually the optimum time.
Right.
Those guitar fish will move up on these shallow flats, and we can actually sight fish for them. There's one particular beach that I take clients to when we're on a low tide trip, and we'll go walk the beach and look for those guys, and I can spot both the shovel-nosed sharks and the leopard sharks cruising the flats looking for bait fish up there. And, we can usually cast on those guys and sight fish them, which is really fun.
Oh.
You just got to know where to go.
That sounds great. And obviously, this must be done with a fly rod, I'm guessing. What kind of flies are you using?
Usually small bait fish patterns. When we're fishing the flats, I'll use a lighter type fly with just not a heavy head on it, because you just don't need to sink down too far. So short leaders, and I just cast them in front of them, lead them, and they're all over it. And we get them with spinning rod too. I use jerk baits. There's a particular lure by Lucky Craft called an LC-110, and that's just a killer lure. It only runs about 2 or 3 feet deep, and it looks like an anchovy or sardine, and they're all over it.
Well, Jason, we could talk a lot more about this, but I'm afraid we've got to go. But folks, if you want to book a trip with Jason and go fishing either on the beaches of Santa Barbara or off the beaches in a kayak, either fly fishing or spin casting, go to his website. It's breakwatertours.com. That's breakwatertours.com, offering some real fun fishing in the saltwater near Santa Barbara. Jason, thanks for telling us all about this on America Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John. Have a good morning.
We've been telling you about Sportsman's Cove Lodge in Southeast Alaska for a while now, and there's a reason. They are the only Alaska lodge we talk about in this show. It's because they're truly Alaska's best lodge. The adventure starts with a float plane ride from Ketchikan, after which you'll get the chance to experience some of the best hospitality, food, and wonderful people you'll ever meet. Wildlife is abundant, from bears and deer to eagles and whales, and let's not forget the reason you're here, the fishing. Halibut, salmon, lingcod, rockfish, true cod, and more. It's all waiting for you in abundance at Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Book your trip today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
There's a place where the fishing is year-round, where the sun shines 300 days a year. The wineries and breweries are right downtown. The hiking and cycling offer spectacular views you just don't get in the big cities. Fortunately, the place is real and vibrant. It's the Dalles, Oregon, just 90 short minutes from Portland, along the gorgeous Columbia River, where the adventures are limited only by your imagination. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
There's no more majestic, magical, adventuresome country than the Western United States of America to enjoy a great family vacation. Hello, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. Shiloh Inns are still offering affordable 4-star accommodations at 2-star prices. Enjoy deluxe smoke-free suites, spacious pools and spas, and fully equipped fitness centers. From free high-speed internet in every room to a free continental breakfast or full, hot, delicious breakfast at most Shiloh Inns. There are no hidden fees like some of the big chain hotels charge. Even the kids stay free, and Shiloh Inns are dog-friendly. For reservations, call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Shiloh Inn's affordable excellence. American family owned and proud of it.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Cruz through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers seeks to ensure North America's outdoor heritage of hunting and fishing. Lend your voice to the fight by visiting backcountryhunters.org and join the 25,000 men and women who have pledged to defend wildlife and public access.
Next up on America Outdoors Radio, we are heading about as far south as you can go and go hunting. We're heading to Argentina. The person that just got back from there is Shane Meisel with Leupold out of Beaverton, Oregon. Shane, welcome to America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you having me on.
So, Shane, what were you hunting down in Argentina?
I was hunting red stag.
Well, the first I knew of this is when I saw a Facebook picture of a man on a horse with a rifle slung across his back, and the first thing I thought was, oh, Shane's going all Western on me. And then I realized, nope, you're going really South American on me. Tell our listeners about the red stag as a big game species.
It is. It's actually the largest of the deer species. It's classified as a deer species, but it almost looks like an elk. It's got the antlers of an elk, but the body of a big-sized deer. They're pretty massive, impressive animals.
You know, I've heard of folks targeting red stag in New Zealand. I didn't even know that it was an option in Argentina. When you think Argentina, you always think dove hunting.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, they have some of the best bird hunting down there, but they definitely have a lot of big game. The outfitter that I was with, we had the options to hunt red stag, water buffalo, mouflon sheep, black buck, multi-horn sheep, Dall sheep. They just had everything down there. So I think over the years they've transplanted a lot of species down to Argentina, and there's a lot of opportunities to hunt some pretty impressive animals down there.
So tell me about the outfitter you were with and just a quick overview of the hunt itself, how it took place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was at a place called Rincon de Luna, which is, I believe, Corner of the Moon, translated. We booked them through Worldwide Trophy Outfitters, WTA, which I think used to be Cabela's Outfitters. And the hunt was just a fantastic experience altogether. We were off on this very remote area in northwestern Argentina, up in the mountains. As you saw from the pictures there, you horseback everywhere. It's very desolate but beautiful terrain. I would almost equate it to Montana, a mix of Montana and New Zealand. Now, I've never been to New Zealand, but I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies, and so when I see those mountains up there, that's what I picture the New Zealand area, and then on the flats and below the mountains is more of a Montana with two rivers running through it and just all sorts of species, fly fishing. It was truly an amazing experience.
Fortunately, you work for Leupold and Stevens. You're the trade marketing manager. That means you got to bring lots of goodies from Leupold to help you on your hunt. What did you use to help you get a stag?
I did. I used kind of our entire gamut. I had our BX4 Pro Guide binoculars to help me spot the animals. I used our RX 1200i TBRW range-finding binoculars to help range when I did find the animal that I wanted and identified it to know my distance. And then I used our new VX6 HD rifle scope to help sight in and harvest that animal. And I am very lucky in the job that I have to have access to all those wonderful products. It was a wonderful experience.
So it sounds like, from the way you're talking, you did get a red stag. Tell me about the animal you harvested.
I did. I was able to harvest a what I consider a giant animal. There's a bunch of different classes of animal down there, and I did not pay up, as they say, for a large one. But for me, it's the largest animal I've ever taken or harvested. It was about 323 inches, if you're into that sort of thing. But he was a very old stag. They aged him at about 12 years. Beautiful looking animal, and really fun sort of experience.
Oh, it sounds like an absolute hoot. So the last question I have for you, for folks wanting to find out more about this sort of hunt, are there some resources? Did you go with anybody who is covering the hunt that's going to have it in media somehow?
We did. Fantastic question. We actually had a few different writers from some outdoor publications, and so there will be coverage on the hunts specifically, but also the outfitters in Argentina, in Outdoor Life, Field and Stream, NRA's American Hunter, and Peterson's Hunting. Those publications are great for helping inform people about different ways of hunting and places to go, and they will be covering this hunt in their pubs.
Well, there you go, folks. Argentina for Red Stag. It's the first I heard of it, maybe the first time you've heard of it too, but if you want to find out more, check out some of those publications in the coming months. And if you want to find great gear to help you bag an animal, either in Argentina or right here in North America, look no further than Leupold.com or your local sporting goods retailer. Get binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and rifle scopes to help you have success in the field. It's all from Leupold Optics and Leupold and Stevens. Shane, always a pleasure to talk to you on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
What an awesome hunt that we just got to hear about. Okay, let's head back north to the United States, way north in the United States, as a matter of fact, and introduce you to some steel targets I think you're going to want to have if you're into target shooting. Next on America Outdoors Radio, we're taking you to Duluth, Minnesota. That's where John Myrie is. He is the owner of AR 500 Target Solutions. And I was just in Duluth for the Outdoor Writers Association of America annual conference. Got to go out to the range, got to shoot at some of John's targets. And I'll tell you what, I was impressed. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, John, you manufacture steel targets, and personally, when I'm shooting, I love shooting at steel targets because you get that immediate feedback. We were shooting at a steel target, one of yours, 200 yards out, and folks, I am happy to say I did hit the target every time, and you know it. Even 200 yards out, you know immediately whether you hit that target. But first, before we get more into that, let's talk about the company name, AR 500 Target Solutions. Why are you called that?
The AR stands for abrasion-resistant metal, and the 500 is actually the Brunel strength of it. They actually put pressure at the point down on the steel until it dents, and that pressure is measured, and that's where they come up with the 500 part.
So, being not a very smart guy, just knowing that there's steel targets and there's steel targets, is this metal a little bit heavier duty, a little more durable than some of your competitors?
Yeah, AR 500 ranges from a 470 Brunel strength to a 540. We try to stay in the upper limits of that, and all our metal is certified and it's made in the USA.
So your competitors, where do their targets fall in this range?
You know, everybody kind of lists everything as AR 500, and eventually you'll hear people say they shot at a target and it dented and it didn't really perform the way it should. I sometimes wonder if people use an AR 400 or 450. There's different ranges of that.
All right, well, let's crawl out of the weeds of steel density and talk about something else. Your targets are powder-coated, and they're colored, too. There's white targets, there's orange targets, and I'm assuming this is meant to increase visibility.
Yes. One thing, shooting at a target, I see a lot of manufacturers have a black target or they're not painted at all. And when you're looking out there at 100, 150 yards, you can barely see the target.
John, you're absolutely right. And all I have to do is go back to my time in the police force or go further back to my time in the military where you're right. There was black targets or gunmetal gray, or in the service they were dark green. And half the time, you really struggled to see the target at all, let alone in my case hit the darn thing. So glad to see you're increasing the visibility with the coloring and the powder coating. One other thing, some of your targets, I understand, unlike most steel targets out there, are actually portable, including the dueling tree you had out there.
Yeah, most people don't have a 40-acre chunk of land, and we realize that. So we've designed all our products to be portable where you could actually put it in the trunk of your car and go to a range or go to some public land and set it up easily. The
dueling tree, primarily for pistol shooters, but I guess we need to talk about the fact that your targets, they're made for both rifles and pistols. Do you sell them both that way, or is it one size fits all, whether it's the gong target or the dueling tree or whatever?
You can really shoot anything at them. As far as all of our targets, you can shoot a pistol at them at 30 feet or beyond. Rifle, you can do 100 yards plus.
So, John, is there anything else about your targets, besides the fact that they're durable, they have the power coating, they're made in the USA, that makes them different than what the competition is offering?
On our targets, we have 3 mounting holes. So there's 2 on the outside if you want to hang them from chains. There's also a carriage bolt center hole into our silhouettes. So if you want to do a center mount, you can do that too.
Last but not least, John, where can folks buy your AR500 targets?
We've got everything online. It's free shipping, and you can find it at AR500targetsolutions.com. So that's AR500targetsolutions.com.
All right, folks, again, I was really impressed by the steel targets I was shooting. Immediate feedback, got to see them up close, very tough, very durable, high visibility, and maybe most important of all is the fact that many of their systems are portable, which is huge. The website, again, AR500targetsolutions.com. That's AR500targetsolutions.com. Check it out, and don't forget the free shipping. That makes them very affordable. John, thanks for telling us about this on America Outdoors Radio.
All right, thanks for having us.
I hope you've enjoyed this best of edition of America Outdoors Radio. We'll be back next week with some new fare for you. In the meantime, I hope you'll like and follow us on Facebook at America Outdoors Radio and look for previews of our shows and past episodes as podcasts on AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Here's hoping you're blessed in the days ahead, and here's hoping that you get out there to have some fun outside. After all, it is your country and your outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.